basically introduction for you. We met at a networking event. Your name's Marty Smith.
Yeah.
You're from Belfast, you said, in Northern Ireland. Is
Yes.
that right? Belfast. So yeah, look,
Yes.
mate,
Fast. Yeah. Belfast.
is that maybe if you could just give a bit of an introduction to yourself and what your sort of brief background is in marketing and in business?
So I started marketing when I was around 16 from my father's businesses. My father had a catering company and a cafe. So we had just started collecting some content when we were at the parties where he was catering for. And then doing some also content in his cafe and restaurant. And I started seeing like when I was putting these posts out and I was starting to see the traction come in and see new people come in through the door. And I was just asking them, oh, where did you hear about us? And a lot of them were saying social media. And this was around maybe just before COVID, maybe about 2018, 2019. So I started thinking, like, is this something that could be, is this something that I could actually do? So I parked it for about a year or two. And during obviously COVID happened. And then I went to work I went to work in a shop, and I was also still working my other job in Titanic Belfast, the museum. I was working as a catering, part of the events and catering team. So during that time, I'd always thought about doing this idea and always going after businesses and helping them with their online marketing. But like I said, I'd parked it for a year, and then just coming into 2000, let me see, 2021, and the opportunity came up to work with some more businesses. So I took that on and worked at that for a while, and then another opportunity came to work within property marketing. So that was then helping property developers market their new homes and their new developments to people
Cool,
online.
cool, mate.
And that was
So
pretty big too.
yeah, cool. So when you say marketing, early days, it was like social media stuff, right? So you're out
Yeah,
capturing content, helping them edit that stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong if
yeah,
any of this is in, but you're
yeah. No,
editing
that's
that stuff
that.
and distributing it across their social media channels, basically. So this is back in, you said 2017, was it?
This would have been about 2018,
2018.
just before COVID, 2019.
So started off in like social media, and then yeah, I guess sorry, I've sort of interrupted you there, but
Are you okay?
where have you sort of grown your skill set to now?
So
Is it still just social media or
So I've sort of grown it now more into paid advertising and just trying to, and generating leads, for the property developers, instead of just capturing content, for the likes of the show homes and maybe some behind the scenes on site. It's more now getting leads into the estate agents, the real estate agents' hands, and then they can then convert on those leads. Paid advertising was something that I always wanted to do alongside the social media marketing. It is a branch of social media marketing, but I find it's a completely strategy on its own because it's something that brings in new business. And social media marketing does bring in new business too, but probably not as much now as it maybe used to, you know,
Mhm.
pre-COVID algorithms and stuff like that. Whereas paid advertising it's pay to play. And if you can have a really good strategy and some really good content in place, you can really take your business really anywhere.
Cool, cool. So you mentioned obviously you had a couple of areas that you've sort of specialized within, like industries, right? Starting off in events and then you moved into property development. Is that
Yes.
so you had multiple clients that you were working within that niche? Did that help? Yeah, I guess did that help specializing in one area when you were getting going?
Yes, it definitely would have. It definitely would have. When the opportunity came up to work in the events industry as well, it was something that always interested me was events, but I never knew how to get into events. So marketing was sort of like that way in. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I always say to people, like, if there's an opportunity to come up and work on something just in any kind of area within that industry, get in because you don't know where it could lead. Do you
Yep,
know what I mean? So
yep.
I then kept working within marketing in the events industry and then moved into actually running events
Oh, cool.
as
All
well.
right.
So that's where I sort of came from within marketing. And I still do marketing for events businesses, venues and stuff, that want to run their own events, but maybe just don't have the time to, you know, work out a good strategy to get their events out to the right people,
Yep.
put it on the right tech platforms, creating the right content to then bring in more people for the next event. So
Yeah.
that's where marketing can it really took me with the events game.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? And I always say to people, like every business owner, right, needs to have like marketing is just a huge arm of their business, right? Yeah.
Massive.
And you have people like me and you say that specialize in helping business owners, but they themselves need to have have a sort of basic understanding of what their strategy is, how they can, the different avenues that they can themselves. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool how where you've gone with that. So yeah, so you mentioned, yeah, so some of the local businesses that you are targeting. Are you working with anyone in Australia now, or you've
I work
obviously
with,
moved over from Ireland,
yeah,
just visiting with your partner at the moment? Are you doing any work here, just freelance stuff, or?
yeah, I'm working with a construction company and and their sister company, just helping them just sort of find their own way with digital marketing. And it's really, they have no real strategy in place, so it's really figuring out what the business goals are and where they want to take the business within 6 months, and it's just making sure the marketing strategy aligns with that. So, for example, a lot of it is probably going to be cold outreach, which is something that I've maybe not had as much experience with technology wise. Cold outreach is obviously something massively important to grow any business, especially our own marketing businesses, because you have to go out and you have to speak your product and you really have to get in front of the right people. So cold outreach is big for us. So I'm probably used to it. But for a business where I'm actually having to sell new features, new benefits, it's different, but it's exciting. It's exciting, and it's going to be good to see another business grow that way. And then also their digital sort of image as well. You know, helping them with their face, their meta, and their paid advertising, and just helping them generate really good content that when viewers see it, they may see the content and be entertained by it. But then further down the line, then that's where they're going to need that business.
Yeah, cool. And it helps them, I guess, like what you're talking now, a lot of people use social media nowadays, which changes. It's like, look, it might not be pushing out and distributing in front of a lot of people, but it's helping you build that brand and have a bit of a presence online. So when maybe someone is looking you up, especially in like the building game, right? Like
Yeah,
whatever sort of trade or service, a lot of people like to do their research on who they're going to employ for any job,
yeah.
contract work too. So, just having that like that there and having a really polished look is super important,
It's
isn't
like
it?
that social. It's like that social sort of image. Like if you were, for example, if you were looking to hire a new lawyer, you would look at you would look at their previous testimonials. For a construction business, you would want to see their previous work. And yes, sometimes people think social media is just like this fun thing, but it's becoming really like a portfolio folder.
Yeah.
For people to just go to and just see the portfolio there for them. And so some people prefer maybe not to have it as visible, and that's fine. But I always think like having something there just as almost like a soft, like as a soft marketing approach for when people are a highly engaged lead with you. Maybe they've become a highly engaged lead with you through word of mouth at Google. That's great. Just having that arm of social media, like you said, it's just
Yep.
always good for that brand image.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, look, I don't want to put you on the spot, but for like smaller businesses, so a lot of the people that I work with are like maybe they're single operators or they're just getting started and they're sort of take on more work. Is there any sort
Yeah.
of tips you would offer maybe to people who don't have a marketing arm, but like maybe some stuff that they could post about on social media? Maybe let's just call it in the building and construction space. Like, let's say it's just an owner operator. What sort of things would be helpful for them just to get started posting about that people are going to want to check and see? Would you
I would
suggest?
I would think for that kind of business, like a construction and building business, I would say highlighting their testimonials would be massive, but doing them in a different way, not just doing a screenshot of their Google reviews or just like an infographic with the testimonial. If they can, you know, get a camera set up like this and just talk about the testimonial, talk the whole way through the project. If they're building a house for somebody, if they're building an extension on their house, talk into that project and take people the whole way through and actually
Mhm.
explain what they done. Because being authentic on social media is the exact same as being authentic in person. People buy from people. So if someone can really get a feel for you online and you're maybe getting that out to maybe two, 300, even if it's 2 or 300 people, or if it becomes 2, 3 thousand people, or if that becomes 200,000 people, it's a one take that then you're distributing to everybody, and then you're not using that energy to go and speak to everybody individually, if that makes sense. So
No, it does. Yeah.
that's what I would say for that kind of business, is just to be authentic and use your testimonials and previous conversations that you might be having in your business. Just create content out of them, create
Yeah,
video
yeah.
content.
And like you're saying, a couple of summarizing the pointers there is just like being authentic, right? Just capturing like real human conversations, right? Humans like just naturally like knowing and seeing what other humans are up to and
Big
thinking.
time.
So yeah, that's great pointers, mate. Cool. So paid advertising is, that's a skill set that I'm sort of developing myself and offering for businesses as well. How have you gone about sort of learning that? Because it is a whole nother strategy in itself, right? Versus
Yeah.
the organic social media content side of things. Obviously, they do work hand in hand, but yeah, completely different skill set. So, how have you developed your knowledge in that area? Have you sat through courses or learned on the job, or yeah, how have you gone about
I think a lot of it will be learning on the job and maybe being involved in a campaign, from the from like just on a sit back on the couch perspective. And what I mean by that is I would maybe know someone who's pretty much an expert at them and just watch what he's doing, just watch what he's got and how he's putting in his campaigns, how he's directing the content in those campaigns. Uh, People say that paid ads are, you've got to set them up this way and set them up that way. Majority of the time the algorithm knows exactly who your audience is. So you just got to make sure your content is just speaking to them. That for me is the most important thing with paid ads. But how I've developed is just testing, just literally just testing. Using your lookalike audiences, which are very important to your custom audiences, which is your customer lists, your customers that are engaged with your content organically, and then just picking your locations, just making sure your business is being shown in the right locations. And a tip for business owners is, if your competitor isn't running paid ads, that's a massive win for you, because you're going to get sales at a really cheap rate compared to if you're maybe switched to another city and there's maybe five or six competitors and they're all running paid ads. Like, their cost per click, their cost per lead, their cost per purchase could be massive. So if you're in an area and your competitors aren't running paid ads, you should be running paid ads, because that's the gap.
that's the differentiator, right? The way that they can separate themselves from the 100%.
Definitely.
And it is like, look, some people get it. You work with. I'm reaching out to business owners. Some people are like, paid ads is that's the game changer, and then there's others, people who are a little bit tentative to get started because they look at, right, well, I've got to invest X amount. I think it's about just that mindset shift. Right, am I running a genuine business here? Right, so this is an investment in my business. Advertising, just like getting your product or service out in front of people. Right, the more
Yeah,
people that know what you offer or what you provide, the more work you're going to get. It's just a simple,
exactly.
that's how business works. So
I think
look,
as
I'm
well.
yeah, go on, go on.
Sorry, buddy. I wanted to bounce in there. Sorry for interrupting you. But one thing I always say for business owners is, if you can look at it from point of view, just covering something a month, is if it's just covering itself. If you're spending, if your ads campaign management is X amount of dollars a month, but your budget is X amount of dollars per month, you know exactly what it is, all right? And if you try it out for 3 months and it just pays for itself, the customers that you've got from it, that have helped paid for itself, that's where you're going to then generate and get them in to your business for a longer time. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's maybe different for property developers. Like, people are making the biggest purchase of their life with a property. It's the biggest purchase of their life. At the end of the day, they have to go through a mortgage. They have to go through mortgages. They have to go through, insurances. They have to go through stamp duty. They have all these big, massive costs. So paid ads isn't a directly great version on property, but it's the leads that you can get from that, and then that's where we then have a really good real estate agent. That's me. This is me just putting that in for example. Is having a really good real estate agent there to convert on them. And if the paid ads, are costing a property developer back home, this is about £1,000, which is around 2,000 Australian. If that's costing them that in a budget a month, all they really need is maybe two leads to convert two leads
Pay
to
for
convert
itself.
every month on deposits for those houses to get their money back. But at the end of the day, if it's just paying for itself, well then it'll help pay for itself in other areas.
Yeah.
So that's what I always say to business owners, as long as it's covering itself for now.
And what you're talking about, spot on. Like it's about, and every business is different, right? But about trying to acquire that customer and then turning that customer into a lifetime buyer,
Yeah.
someone that you can keep in your network once you've got their details and you've done a really good job for them. They've got that, that good taste in their mouth from when they worked with you.
Yeah.
And another part of that is like using those customers to collect reviews as well. So what sort of platforms do you recommend for clients collecting reviews, right? So the whole reviews process is super, super important with marketing, like we've sort of touched on already.
Yeah.
This is something that I've been like looking at recently with
Yeah.
my own business, actually, like just my own marketing platform, like which was the best one to use? Is it Google? Is it Trustpilot?
Yeah.
Do you have some platforms that you've used in the past and you recommend for business owners?
I would say those two you've touched on would be very important. I think a lot of business owners as well sort of turn off their reviews on Facebook. You obviously can't do reviews on Instagram. You can obviously highlight, those testimonials. You can highlight those reviews, and have them pinned to your top of your page on Instagram. Maybe, having your stories highlight, because, stories is a massive thing on Instagram.
Yeah.
There's probably people that go on Instagram and never, touch the newsfeed. They're just on stories. So I would say having your stories with the story highlights would be good. Have a good infographic with the testimonial and maybe a screenshot from Google. I also find as well, if you've got that really good client that really, has, you've worked well with them and they enjoy your business. This is me maybe putting it into professional services point of view. If you've worked with somebody with your professional services, if you can ask them, to maybe do like a Loom video after they've received the after service, and if you can use that with your hot leads in maybe your email campaigns, I think that would be quite a good platform,
Right.
essentially, to have your reviews shown with Loom videos, because like we started this call, with the authenticity sort of thing we touched on. People like to buy from people, so if somebody can hear words from another person's mouth talking about the person that they're thinking about buying from, there may be another 20 or 30% there to then convert them with you.
100%. And it's really just about that whole, you said, it's just that human nature, psychological aspect, right? Of just
Yeah.
a huge part of that buying decision is just like trust a lot, especially in the whole professional services game, where a lot of the time it's exactly, there's maybe not like a hard physical product that you're giving someone in exchange for money, but it's a service. And a lot of the time, we all think of it, we work with accountants, maybe some people work with lawyers or that sort of field, and it's just that trust element that helps
Yeah.
you tick over the line. So with the reviews, it's all about building that trust with, and it helps so much, like you're talking about with the maybe cold DMing people or that initial outreach, right? If you can direct them to a page or some sort of reviews where they've never seen or heard of your name before, but if they can see that you've done good work for others, then it just builds that immediate higher level of trust, and there's so much easier to sell when it gets
Massively. Those sort of Loom videos can also be, put in the landing pages. Like if you have like a sort of landing page sitting there that has a clear CTA on it, having your Loom videos throughout, it would be is quite a good platform to have as well, especially when you're doing the cold outreach and stuff.
No worries. So cold outreach, that's an interesting one. Even for my own, like you said, like working in marketing, right? It's about trying to help business owners and how can we, yes, outreach to those people. So, but it applies to all businesses, I guess. It's, at some point getting your name in front of people. But anyway, where I'm trying to get to this is, what sort of methods of cold outreach have you used? Has there been certain processes more successful than others, or what's your experience in that world?
Cold outreach, yeah, it's a funny one. Like, like some people say, they don't like to receive cold calls. If you're out for a walk, you might see on someone's mailbox, no junk mail. No junk mail is obviously, it's cold mail. People hoping to catch a lead on from a mailing perspective. But for me, cold outreach it's really just it's like paid ads, recording a video on paid and running paid advertising, but just doing it in person or doing it over the phone or doing it via text message, doing it via email. For me, the three, I think the number one is definitely get in front of people in real life. Just walk into a business. I think that's massive. If you don't want to do it, well, then get someone who's highly trained and knows exactly what the features and benefits of your business are. They don't have to know exactly what you're doing. They just have to know the features and benefits of why someone should take your business instead of your next door neighbor's business. That's really what you need to be selling when you're talking to someone. For emails, I would say, a decent introduction email and then maybe a follow up maybe 3 or 4 days later, and then maybe another follow up in a week if they're not responding. If they're responding after the first one, as I would say, is try and get them into an email sequence of pushing out case studies to them, case scenarios, and obviously testimonials until they convert and then that's when then you can begin the onboarding process. So yeah, I think the main ones is definitely in person, email for professional businesses that are maybe, like so cafes, restaurants, sort of like you said, single operator businesses, you know, those ones, the main method is just you just gotta call in, you just gotta go in and see them. But for a more professional business like an accountant, I would say that it's cold outreach through maybe email because that's where they're mostly spending their time.
That's cool. And I guess where we're getting to now, I guess, with the whole world is obviously we're starting to leverage artificial intelligence. So, people look at it in two ways, I guess. Maybe you're thinking that single owner operator type business owner. They can either, some people think they're going to be crushed in this sort of environment, but I also think there's a lot of opportunity for people to start leveraging some of these tools and just get so much more. I'm just thinking from like an outreach sort of thing. There's so many tools online that people can use to, and it's not about spamming people, but it's just about getting more leverage for your time. So if you
Yeah,
can acquire a list of 100 accountants and then click one button and the AI shoot out an SMS to them or something along those lines, or put that into an email
yeah,
sequence, you just get so much more leverage for your time, and that is really the critical aspect for a lot of these business owners is where do they best use it. So while we're on that topic, have you started to work with some like AI tools in your with your approach with marketing with some of these businesses? Is there anything cool that you're currently working on that sort of like, wow, this is a really cool tool that's saving myself time and the business?
yeah, I would say using ChatGPT the right way. That's what I found myself doing when I started using it was constantly starting a new conversation, but to do with the same thing. So if I was asking, for example, give me an idea for a post on May 4th to do with maybe like a May the 4th day. I was maybe punching that into ChatGPT and then closing the conversation, and then maybe a day later I was maybe going back, maybe looking for a different one on a different conversation. But what a lot of business owners could do is if they open one conversation with ChatGPT, punch in all the details about their business, have, link their Google, if they have a website, link their website in there, link all their socials, and let ChatGPT learn the business from an online perspective. I think that's a really cool tool that you can use, is letting ChatGPT become almost like an auditor or just like an auditor for your business online. And it doesn't have to be online. You can punch in case scenarios or maybe something's went wrong in the business and you want sort of an outside perspective. But keeping it on the same conversation, I think is definitely like a game changer because the AI can then know exactly where your business is at, because if you start a new conversation on it, it's then gonna have to relearn it again. So
And I
that's
think
one of the cool tools.
no, 100%, you're right. And I think the whole idea that these tools, you're starting to see the benefit now. The longer you work with it, right, the smarter it gets. Um,
Exactly.
and
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's still very very early on in, but we look at how much it's improved over that time. And it's funny, you can go into ChatGPT and ask it to like, what do you know about me? That's an
Yeah.
interesting prompt to put it in there. And yeah, I mean, if you've been working in just like what you're talking about, one sheet, it'd be interesting what it would know and what it collects and sort of gathers from all of that time. And you can just imagine years from now how advanced it's going to be. So yeah, no, it's awesome, mate. And also, yeah, please just, I know you've got a head at some point. So just give us a shout.
Yeah, no issue, no issue.
For the gym. One thing, sort of getting back to the paid ad stuff.
Yeah.
Not necessarily paid ads. I just guess in general, like marketing and some of the metrics that we can use to follow how successful, say, a campaign's been. What are some of the things you're looking for when you run a campaign online? Yeah, what are some of the metrics that you like to use? Yeah, see if it's been a success, or how you can use that metric to make some adjustments. What are you looking for?
I'm probably always looking for cost per click. So depending on my budget and depending on maybe say how niche the business is. So I'll give you an example that we started running ads for an online coaching business. And they wanted to operate in the area that they lived in because they wanted to, basically leverage their image that they had on a gym floor. They wanted to leverage, like people knew them from what they are in the gym floor, but they wanted to leverage that to online coaching. But they maybe wanted to just get it across to more people that maybe say live maybe 20 or 30 minutes away in the same location, but maybe just 20 or 30 minutes away from the gym that they were working in. So one of the things that we really wanted to track was just the cost per click. It's really important because when someone is clicking on say if you have 500 clicks and you're running a lead generation campaign, if you've got 500 clicks, that's 500 clicks that can then go into your custom audience. So that's 500 clicks that someone has then performed on your ad that then you have banked now. So then you might be able to retarget them with that. So the clicks is very important. What else? I always find the frequency would be quite important as well. Figuring out how many times someone has actually viewed the ad. So frequency is you've got reach and you've got frequency. So your frequency is how many times the ad has been seen in total. So if you've got a reach of say 10,000, but your frequency's 40,000, you've got a frequency of 4.
This is you're sort of talking meta ads.
Yeah. Meta ads, yeah.
That's definitely an area for me. Like I'm helping clients run ads on Meta, but it's always good to get insights from other people because everyone's got different opinions on what works, and then not only that, you've got like differences in industries, right? So what would be considered a good cost per click in, say, the fitness coaching world could be completely different in, say, gutter cleaning or some of that sort of thing. So it's about having an understanding of, this is why it's so interesting working in marketing, working with different businesses, is having that understanding. So no, cool, mate. Well,
yeah, knowing the different costs.
Yeah, that's right. So what's your, just looking sort of your outlook for you? You've spending another couple of more weeks in Australia, or have you got a few months ahead of you? What's your plans?
A few months ahead. I signed a lease there on a property there in March, so I'm here for at least a year. You guys have got me for at least a year. So yeah, it's amazing. It's a great city. It's a very different kind of city to what I'm used to. I'm used to a very sort of small, sort of fishbowl place where everyone sort of knows each other, and that it's got its good and bad. It's good is that everybody knows each other, so everyone's maybe a bit more friendly. The negative to that is that everybody thinks that they know who you are and thinks they know everything about you. So for
you're
me,
talking about, just for everyone who doesn't know, you're obviously staying in Perth.
Yes, Perth, yeah.
And you're talking about, was it Belfast?
Belfast, yeah. So like Belfast is probably like maybe like a fifth of the size of Perth, if even. Maybe about a fifth would be about right. I would say Belfast is maybe about this. It's about the size of Mandurah. I would say that's about the size of Belfast. It's quite a small city.
Cool. And like you said, I think, we spoke about when we went out for a drink the other day, I think there's loads and loads of opportunity in Australia.
Massive.
Especially just in our world, it's super exciting. Like just so much opportunity to work with small business, or if you want to get specialized in an area like you did back at home, there's loads of opportunity here. So, yeah, it's really cool. Is there any, is the main goal of the whole trip is to basically just travel and experience Australia, or there's no other sort of other motives outside of that?
Really, it sort of all really depends. At the minute I'm thinking if I could maybe live in Australia, for 7-8 months of the year, maybe like with PR, if I could live here 7-8 months of the year and then go home, maybe, during my summer months. It's currently May now in Australia, and back home, like this is like you guys would call this your autumn, is it? Or is this going into your winter?
We're going into winter next month.
Yeah. So this is your autumn. This is my summer at home. Like this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
my summer. Do you know what I
Looks
mean?
sunny. It
Like
looks sunny where you are there in outside your gym or wherever you are. It looks nice outside.
yeah, like that. This is my summer. So like if I could base myself here for 7 8 months of the year, like I think that would be amazing for me. And just to go back to on the point of you know the just got my neighbour just waving at me there. The thing about Australia being so so much opportunity is that it's so untapped, and I find like there's businesses starting every day in Australia. Like I'm driving through these industrial estates like in Osborne Park, Malaga, all these big industrial estates. I'm just seeing just businesses, and God knows how many of those businesses probably have a really basic website that probably was built in like 2005, that needs updated. Some, really might have an online audience that they maybe built from, maybe running a competition a few years ago, and then they had somebody leave. They had somebody leave for digital marketing, and then they've never got somebody in. Like, there's companies that are looking for digital marketing specialists every single day. Like just go in and just put yourself out there. You don't know what could come of it. You might land the big gig, or you might just start doing maybe 15 graphics for them a month. You might start designing their email signatures. You know, it doesn't matter. Like as long as you can get in with a business and show value and show that you're committed to helping that business, you don't know where it could lead. And I find that that's something that I found in Australia very quickly is it's a very untapped market.
Yeah, it's interesting. When you go and spend some time at networking events here and you start to explain to people what you do, you soon find out how popular you become. Just you say, oh, like digital marketing. Everyone's like, oh, ears picks up a little bit. Oh, these are business owners that you're talking to.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of the time their ears prick up. They go, oh, I need to get your details because everyone needs help in some way, shape, or form. So just like you're saying, there's so many opportunities, and if you can just start really small and get your foot in the door with a business, it's a really good way to go. But I've actually only got about a minute and a half left on the Zoom. I'll probably time things up anyway, mate. So yeah, what I'll be doing is like sharing this across social media. So just as we are checking out, do you have like social media or somewhere that people can reach out to you, website, details?
Yeah, so I'm a closed book a lot when it comes to marketing. I prefer to sort of just get in touch with people myself, but you can just get me on Instagram, just Marty Smith, Smith with 3 I's.
Look, I don't have to include all of that in it, but I like to ask some people.
100%.
I'm a little bit the same as you. Like I am starting to build some content now to share across people, but I don't want my whole life out there. And working with people, I like to keep certain things private too. So yeah. Anyway, mate, before it closes on us, cheers for jumping on. I'll be sure to keep in touch. I appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%, Jay. Sure, we'll catch up soon, buddy. All right.
All good. All right. Enjoy your gym session, mate.
See you later, man. See you later.
See ya.